Hey everyone, welcome back to Corporate Decoder, where we decode the secrets that big companies try to keep hidden in their filings, and sometimes what they reveal is just plain bizarre. Today we're cracking open a report from Lifecore Biomedical Incorporated, and it looks like they had their big annual meeting. And before we dive in, if you enjoy getting the inside scoop on corporate documents without all the jargon, hit that subscribe button. Also, we've got a fantastic Discord community brewing. Links are in the description below. It is the perfect place to chat about these filings and more. So, the big news here is what happened at Lifecore Biomedical's 2025 annual meeting of stockholders. Think of this as the company's big annual check, in where important votes happen. This meeting took place on the 29th of October 2025. Now, who gets to vote and what were they voting on? Well, it seems like there were quite a few shares of common stock and some special series, a convertible preferred stock. There were three main things on the ballot for the shareholders. First, they had to elect 9 directors to the company's board to lead them for the next year. This is super important because these are the people making the big decisions for Lifecore. Interestingly, 7 of these directors were chosen by all shareholders, both common and preferred stockholders voting together. But 2 special directors, called the series of preferred directors, were elected solely by the holders of that series of preferred stock. Sounds like preferred shareholders have some specific influence. Second, they were voting to approve or ratify the choice of KPMG LLP as the company's independent auditors for 2025. This is basically a thumbs up to the folks who check the company's financial books to make sure everything is on the up and up. And third, there was a non-binding vote, which means the board doesn't have to do what the shareholders say, but it is still a strong signal on the pay of the company's top bosses, the named executive officers. Let's get to the juicy numbers for the directors elected by everyone. Some names got a huge number of votes for. For example, Humberto C. Antunes received over 24.5 million votes for. Paul H. Johnson and Paul Josephs also saw strong support, with over 24.7 and 24.8 million votes for them respectively. It looks like the shareholders were pretty happy with most of their director picks. Looking at the table, it is really interesting to see how many votes withheld and broker non-votes there are. Broker non-votes happen when your broker votes on your behalf on some matters, but not others, often because they didn't receive instructions. For most of the directors, these votes were a whopping 10,786,809. That is a lot of shares not actively casting a withheld or against vote. Now, for those 2 special directors elected by the series of preferred stockholders, Jason Ari and Christopher S. Kuiper, they both got exactly 38,776 votes for. Interestingly, for these 2, there were no votes against, votes withheld, or broker non-votes listed. This suggests a very focused and unified vote from this specific group. So, what is the outcome of all this voting? Well, all 9 director nominees were successfully elected. They will serve until the next annual meeting in 2026. This means the current leadership is confirmed for another year. Next up, the auditors. Shareholders overwhelmingly approved keeping KPMG LLP on board for fiscal year 2025. With a massive 35,663,643 votes for, it is clear the company and its shareholders trust KPMG's work. There were only 15,326 votes against, which is a tiny fraction compared to the support. Think of it like this: for every person who said no, about 2,300 said yes. Finally, the executive compensation. This was a non-binding vote and it garnered significant support with 24,642,130 votes for. However, there were also 238,354 votes against and 80,394 abstain votes. While the for votes clearly outweigh the against votes, the number of against and abstain votes might suggest some shareholders have reservations about how the executive team is being compensated. Again, a lot of broken non-votes here, totaling 10,786,809, which means many shareholders' shares weren't directly counted for or against on this specific issue. And that wraps up the official reporting of the voting results. Now, looking at this filing, Lifecore Biomedical seems to have had a generally smooth sailing annual meeting when it comes to electing directors and approving auditors. The overwhelming support for KPMG suggests confidence in their financial oversight. However, the advisory vote on executive compensation did show some divergence of opinion among shareholders. While a majority approved, the significant number of against and abstain votes is a signal that some investors are paying close attention to how the company's leaders are rewarded. It's not a red flag. But it is something to monitor in future filings to see if this trend continues or if shareholder sentiment shifts. The company's direction seems to be stability, with leadership firmly in place, but the compensation vote introduces a slight note of caution regarding shareholder satisfaction with executive pay practices. Alright, That is our breakdown of Lifecore Biomedical's latest filing. What is your take on these numbers and what they signal for the company's future? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. If this analysis was valuable, hitting that like button really helps us out. And don't forget to subscribe for more deep dives into corporate secrets also. Check out our Discord community in the description. It is the best place to connect and discuss all things finance. Thanks for watching. See you next time.